Anyway, so we're actually going to go ahead and do the oil change on the Freelander now. So this is very generic advice, so this will kind of count for any vehicle. It's much the same process for them. The first step is going to be getting it sort of up, well, warmed up for starters, so I'll be warming up in just a moment. Getting it up in the air on a jack and axle stands. I've shown that in previous videos, there's plenty of videos how to do that sort of safely, but mostly just find where your safe jacking points are, and then also a safe area to put where your axle stands go, usually on the sort of chassis rail. For the job, we're going to be using some nice Miller's oil. So this is just stuff I've had for a little while now. It's just oil that I had lying around. Oil filter. So most of them are this sort of cartridge style, but you can also get a canister, which is like a metal cylinder with the filter built into it. And these come with a new seal and washer for the sump plug. So thankfully APD are really good and they got that one sent out to me, so big thank you to APD for that. Helps to get these jobs done. You're going to need a tray to drain the oil into, and then something to pour that oil into with a funnel, so you can take it to the local sort of recycling centre, tip, etc. to get rid of the oil properly. Okay, so that's the car running. So we're just going to let it get up to operational temperature. I have driven recently, so it's pretty much there. But I'll just give it an extra few minutes on the driveway now just to get up to temperature. And then the oil is going to be thin enough to drain nice and easy. So if you haven't warmed the car up before you do these sort of points, I'd probably say just take it for a quick drive, get it nice and warm, up to operational temperature, and then you can start draining the oil. So I was going to give it a few minutes now. Okay, so engine's up to operational temperature now. So I've got the big coat on so I can slide in underneath the car. And we're going to start draining that oil out. So make sure you've got the tub ready, get it lined up because that oil will come out with some force. So make sure you've got that in the right kind of position, otherwise you're going to get it all over your driveway, which makes your parents really happy. So yeah, start draining the oil and we're going to go on with that bit now. Let's have a look. Okay, so we're just coming underneath the Freelander from the front now. And this is our bolt here that we're going to need to remove. So they normally on a sump are positioned at the back of the sump, simply because it's best and most conducive to draining. So you can lift up just the front, get a bit more of an angle on it, and sort of drain from that bolt there. So let's get that bolt off and start draining the oil. Okay, so we've got the ratchet. It's a 15mm on the Freelanders, and we're going to keep the bucket close by as well. Okay, so it should only have to very gently break away. It shouldn't be all that tight. And we're going to do it by hand the rest of the way. I find a good way of doing it is to use one finger to push the head of the bolt back in, whilst using the other hand to unthread it. That allows you to take the bolt most of the way out without anything leaking out. And then you can quickly pull your hands out of the way and let the oil start draining. Your bucket ready. Right, that's out now, and there we go. So bolt out, nice and clean hands, relatively. I'm just going to drain all that oil out. Now I believe it's around 7 litres in the Freelander, so it's probably going to fill most of this tub. However, always have a backup tub and keep the bolt in hand. I like to stay underneath just until it starts to really slow down, just in case it starts to get too close to the top of that tub. Okay, so I'm fairly confident that's not going to spill over the top of this bucket now. It's really slowed down, there's a good few inches left in the tub. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to leave it to drain for an extra sort of 10-15 or so minutes. And we're going to crack on with doing the top of the engine with the oil filter. Okay, so whilst we're draining the oil from down there, on the Freelander it's nice and easy actually. This is our oil filter. I keep saying air filter. This is our oil filter housing right here. So yours will probably look fairly similar to that. Most often they do look like these little dome-shaped bits with these big hex heads on them. If you've got one that is one of the cylinder style ones, the metal ones, it will look like this without the hex head on it. And sometimes you've got to get like a grabber to remove them. But yeah, these ones are a cartridge style, so it's going to get a head on there. Now these are 36mm, so you've got to have a nice big socket for that, and I'll just get that one now and show you once it's on there. Okay, so this is our 36mm socket. So that's just going to go down nicely and sit on top of it there. Okay, so that's the 36mm on there nice and tight. So just going to get an extension arm on there. So I've got this nice extension arm here with the adapter piece on the end for these big sockets. That's just going to sit on there like that. Okay, so now that we've got the extension arm on there, we get nice easy access to this. So now it's just time to undo it. So make sure this is the right way. Again, this shouldn't be immensely tight. These are only really meant to be sort of pinch tight. So once you've got that a little bit off, probably take this bit off. Do a little bit more by hand. Take that out. Do the rest by hand. Yeah, nice and easy. I'm just going to grab a rag. Sometimes I also find when I take this out, a sudden bit of oil rushes out the bottom through the sump again. I think that's just because it releases pressure maybe. Right, that's that out. Just got that little hose gets in the way. So get that out as quick as we can. Oil filter left in there, good. There we go. I'm trying to get the least amount of oil on everything. That's that now done. I'm going to take it off my paintwork. And we're going to take it down to the bottom. Okay, so that's the old oil-filled nasty oil filter. There's the old housing, well, the housing for it, so keep that. We're going to take this little oil ring off, just get a little screwdriver to take that out. And we're going to get a new seal on there, new oil filter in, and get that into the engine now. Okay, so to get that off, just nice and easy, just going to use like a little electrical screwdriver. Just peel it off, and you've got a nice little band around here for the new one to go into. Okay, so we're going to put the new one on. I've always sort of done this, I don't know why, someone told me once I think. Just always rub like a little bit of the old oil just around this little O-ring. Get rid of the old one, get it all out of the way now, don't confuse them. Just, you know, get a load of, a good coating of that oil on there. And then pop it on. Like so, and they've normally got like a nice sort of thick groove for it to fit into. So we can get rid of that, and the next step is new oil filter onto that way, and it should click in. When you hear that click, you know it's on there basically. That's now in there and ready to be inserted back into the engine. Okay, so we're just going to insert the new oil filter into there and do as much as you can by hand. You don't really want to be using a ratchet, you want to make sure it's not threaded, etc. So that went down nicely. So now I'm going to do the last little bit with the 36mm again. To get that on there, insert that into there, that on there. And we're just going to get that tight on there like that. Like you say, you should feel it hit that point where you don't really want it to go any tighter. Again, these only really have to be at pinch tight. They don't need to be graunched up on these. It's only a plastic thread. Okay, so I've let the oil drain for a little while now, so we're just going to get the sump plug back in. Make sure you replace that washer with the new sort of crush washer or fibre washer, whatever it sort of comes with your kit. Yeah, so we're going to get that bottom bolt back in. Make sure you do that before you start pouring the oil in, because it'd be a bit of a waste otherwise. So yeah, we're going to get that bolt back in, and then we're going to start topping up the oil, because like I say, I've been checking for about 10-15 minutes and the oil sort of completely stopped coming out now. There's no sort of drips or anything else. So yeah, let's go on to the next stage of putting that bolt back in, doing the oil. Okay, so just going to get this tub out the way. Let's get this bolt in a little bit first. So it's going to do it by hand a little bit. Just to stop anything else coming out now. Just a little drips there on the end, lovely. Right, let's get that. There we go. Like I say, you don't want to go immeasurably tight, you just want to make sure you're really nipping it up and squishing down that washer a little bit to create that seal. So that's in there nice and tight, so we're going to get the bucket out and we're going to start filling it in from the top. Okay, so we're going to put the oil in the car now, so the next step is just going to be finding where the oil goes in on your car. So on mine, it is in through this port here. Quite often it'll be marked with yellow cap of some kind, and it will have like an oil, sort of old style oil pot sort of container label on it. So that's my oil there, so we'll start going through that. Okay, so we've got the rag on there, got the oil. Now this car is actually just over 7 litres normally. This is a 5 litre tub. I have got another one on me. I wouldn't have drained out every last morsel of oil, so I'm going to pour most of this in, and I'm going to keep an eye on the dipstick, keeping that cleaned up and then making sure it is getting to the right level, because I don't think I would get all 7 litres back in. Okay, so I've got most of it in there, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to let it settle for a while. I'm going to get the vehicle back down now. I'm happy that everything is not draining out of the bottom, etc. So I'm going to get the vehicle back down nice and level, and then we can start checking the dipsticks. And now I'm happy, now I'm happy that nothing's coming out the bottom of the engine. I don't have to sort of scurry back under there. I'm going to happily sort of put the vehicle back down, get it nice and level, and start checking on that dipstick. Okay, so I'm going to let it drain down for a little while, so I'm just going to check the oil. I don't think it'll be quite there. Yeah, so just sort of near the bottom of the dipstick there, so we just need to get it up to the top line. So let's put a little bit more in. Okay, so that's the whole 5 litres in there. It's getting there, if you can see, it's sort of most of the way up the dipstick, not all the way up there, but it's nice and clean coming off on the rag as well, so it's good. It's another litre or so and we should be there. Okay, so I've just topped it up an extra litre and a bit. As you can see, the oil is now perfectly in line with that last notch. Trying not to drop in the oil. So that is now perfectly where it needs to be. So let's not do that. So there we go, so that's now perfectly topped up, so it's just going to be cleaning this bit up, getting the cap back on, and we're done. Okay, so that's the cap back on there, oil topped up, so we are done. That's the oil change done on the Freelander, so hopefully you find this video useful. It's just one of those little jobs to do sort of every 6 months to every 12 months, depending on how you drive the vehicle. I tend to sort of do it every sort of 9-ish months. I don't do a huge amount of miles. So yeah, just a little thing to do, keep the vehicle going, should help with MPG. It's one of the main reasons I'm doing this job, is I've started to notice a little drop in the miles per gallon. I'm also doing a temperature sensor in another video to hopefully combat that a little bit as well. But yeah, other than that, hopefully you found it useful, and see you on the next video.